Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Overwhelmed Gamer podcast. This is a show for anyone trying to navigate their massive gaming backlog. I'm your host, Jason, and if you're new here, each week I dive into my personal gaming adventures. Then we shift gears into the meat of the podcast, where we either do a deep dive game review, we talk about a hot topic or nostalgic gaming topics, or I do special guest interviews. There's always something fun lined up each week. And in this week's podcast, we're breaking down what I consider to be a very underrated retro gaming console. We're talking the Sega CD. So I'm joined by my friend Mysticles. We're going to break it all down for you. So whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on your favorite podcast app, welcome. Let's get into it.
He is the overwhelmed gamer. Jason's the overwhelmed gamer. He stopped playing 20 years ago and just started up again. Now his backlog of games to try seems like it never ends. Exploring older games and retro. He's playing homebrew on Nintendo. Yeah, he's the overwhelmed gamer. Alright!
So before we get started, just a quick bit of housekeeping. We're moving things around a little bit. I'm going to move the podcast to Friday evening, so like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock Central Time. I don't know. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I thought it was a better time for the podcast piece of the content that I do. So yeah, you're going to see that drop every Friday evening from now on. Other things, I'm looking for more guest hosts. So if you're interested in coming on and talking a gaming topic, or if you're a developer and you want to do an interview or review a game with us, let us know. Just go to the website at www.overwhelmedgamer.show. There's a little form that you can fill out, and let me know if you're interested in doing that. The last thing is we opened a new Discord server. I'll have the link in the description of the podcast. So yeah, if you're interested in just hanging out with the community and chatting video games, new, old, talking about streaming, whatever else you might want to do, come join us. We'd love to have you. So that's it for that. Now we are going to get into a little segment that I like to call What's Gripping My Controller. So if you're new to the podcast, this segment, I like to kind of just go over my gaming week, what's coming up, what I've been playing, any game pickups, all that kind of fun stuff. And if you're not interested in any of that, if you skip down about, like 10 minutes, you'll get into the meat of the discussion. So you can always do that, but it's kind of fun. I don't know. We hang out and we talk games. So, what have I been doing? My daughter and I finished Portal. That game was awesome. I am so glad we finally got a chance to sit down and play it. It's one that I had always wanted to play, and I kind of had to convince my daughter to get into it. So it was a super fun game, and we'll be doing a review for that. I'm hoping that will come out next Monday, and I'm going to drag her into the review. So you'll see a video review of her and I talking Portal on the YouTube channel. Kind of took a little bit of a break this week, just lots of stuff going on. This end of school time for us is just crazy. My wife's a school teacher, and I still have school-age kids too. So end of the year here, there's always concerts and plays and all kinds of things to wrap up before the end of the school year. So yeah, it's just been a little nuts. Game pickups, really didn't have any game pickups, but I did get my VGM box this week, so we'll blitz through some of these games that I got, and let me know if any of these were any good. I looked through the box briefly, but I don't really remember what's in there. I don't think it's anything good, to be perfectly honest with you, but they're filler titles, so what do you want? First on the list is we got Vegas Dream. Yeah, I don't know how much game time I'll be giving this, but I will definitely, all the games that I get from any of these, I'll check out. And I did change this box. So moving forward, my VGM box is going to consist of more than just NES games. I changed it to basically all cartridge-based games. So yeah, that's going to kind of help me with filler stuff. And besides the NES, which I am going for a full set, I don't keep a lot of these games. If it's a game that I try for a little bit and I don't like it, hits the trading pile and I move it along. Yeah, just so much you can do. What is it? Oh, I think I already have this one. Win, lose, or draw. See, I love this though. There's endless video. I have no idea where endless video used to live or be or whatever, but kind of cool to see that. So if anybody knows of an endless video, maybe you've rented this before. I will say though, Nintendo does a pretty good job with their like board game type games. I've always had somewhat fun with them. So win, lose, or draw. There's another one to the collection. Here, I think there's a theme going on here. Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, Wheel of Fortune. I don't know. This isn't. That's. I did play this one a lot though. A buddy of mine had it. I remember playing it over there. Only two more. Tengen. It's never good. RBI Baseball. Although if there's a Tengen game to get, RBI Baseball is not a bad one. I think this actually might be a duplicate. See, I go in and I change my list every week, but I don't know. They screw up a lot of times. So, but yeah, RBI Baseball by Tengen's actually a pretty decent baseball game. So if I don't have it, I'll probably keep it in the collection. Although I'm going for the licensed set. Not really looking for Tengen games to be honest, but they're or at least past Tengen games. We can get in the whole Tengen thing as far as the new Tengen company making some great new NES games. And lastly, we have Kung Fu Heroes. I don't think I know a whole lot about this. Yeah, Kung Fu Heroes for the NES. It is, I don't know, cute little cartoon label. I'm not sure. I'll definitely check it out and give it some playtime, but that's pretty much it for game pickups this week. Like I said, just nothing crazy times at the end of the school year here. So that's it for what's gripping my controller this week. Not a whole lot going on. So we're going to play a quick little service announcement. And when we come back, Mysticles and I will be sitting down and talking Sega CD. Be right back. Hey there, quick service announcement before we get back to the show. If you're enjoying the podcast, there's a whole lot more going on in the Overwhelmed Gamer universe. Check out my YouTube channel where I review retro, homebrew, and backlog games, plus I do power ranking videos covering the best and sometimes the weirdest in retro gaming. I'm also live streaming every week, Sundays at 7:30 p.m. Central with my daughter for some co-op fun, and solo streams every Tuesday and Thursday at 10:30 p.m. Central where I chip away at my never-ending backlog. You can catch those streams on Twitch, YouTube, and even TikTok. Want to hang out with a great community of fellow gamers? Join our Discord server. It's a perfect place to talk games, share your recent pickups, or just vibe with people who love the classics. And if you ever want to get in touch with the show, whether it's suggesting a topic, ask a question, or just to say hey, head on over to www.overwhelmedgamer.show and fill out the contact form. I'd love to hear from you. Oh, and if you're interested in supporting everything we do here, don't forget to check out our Overwhelmed Gamer Retro Clothing Shop to represent your love for old school gaming in style. All the links you need are in the show notes. Now let's get back to it. Before we get into the topic, I like to reach out and get community feedback. So I reached out on the old socials and wanted to get feedback on what others thought of the Sega CD, and I got a few. Canada over on X replied back and said 3 of the best: Lunar Silver Star, Lunar Eternal Blue, and Popful Mail. But goddamn, I could talk for hours about the adventures and fun I had with this console. Yeah, I have to say I really kind of agree. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I thought this console is underrated, and I had a pretty good collection, which I unfortunately no longer have. Yeah, thanks for the feedback there. Business over on X also replied back and said he had the JVC XI Sega CD and it was terrible. There are a couple okay games, Sonic CD and Terminator 1. He mentions, check out Business is one of my personal friends. He does a lot of streaming. So if you're into streaming and you're into retro stuff, he actually streams as a Super Nintendo puppet, which is really cool. And it's not, what the hell do they call it now? It's not AI or any of that kind of stuff. He actually built a Super Nintendo puppet and he controls it all by himself. Super cool dude and super, super fun stream to watch. So definitely go check him out. It's BIZSNES. So check that out. Mike Lopez over on Facebook chimed in and said he has every old school console still in boxes. That's pretty baller. The only console I don't own is the Sega Master System. I own a Sega Master System now, I'm proud to say. And the Switch one is I'm getting a Switch too. This was one of my faves. So one of his favorite consoles. The games he liked were Dragon Force, Lunar 1 and 2, Shining Force CD. Ooh, Shining Force CD is one that I really want to get into at some point because I love the Shining Force series on the Genesis. But I think the CD one is like a combination of the Game Gear games, something to that. I don't know. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Only for games that I owned on the platform, he says. So thanks, Mike, for chiming in. Steve Barnett also just chimed in real quick over on Facebook and tells us Sega CD, definitely a classic game console. True. Very true. All right. That's it for community feedback. Thanks everyone who wrote in. And if you want to write in, you can hit us up on the website or join the Discord and do it that way. We'll read your responses, all that kind of fun stuff. So we are going to play a little music. And when we come back, Mysticles and I will give you our takes on the Sega CD. See you in a bit.
Hey! You still don't have a Sega CD? Huh? What are you waiting for? Nintendo to make one? You have seen the games, right? Wrong answer, man. Show 'em! Want to see more?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. And I have with me today Mysticles. What's going on, man? Thanks for jumping on here again.
How you doing?
I am good. So we are talking about the Sega CD, which I think is a very underappreciated console. And when I thought of doing this discussion, I couldn't think of anybody better to get on here and talk about it with, because I know I've watched some of your streams and I know you do a lot of Sega CDs still today. So I figured it would be the best fit for this show this week. And give me just quick, like, your history with it. Was this something that you got right away? Did you pick it up later in life as far as like a collection piece, or what?
Right.
How did you get to it?
My first interaction with the Sega CD was when I was like 13. So
Okay, yeah.
probably like 2001 or something. Well after it came out, you know what I mean? It came out, I think, North America like 92. And I went to a friend's house and everybody had like, PS2s at that point. I think it was, 2003, something like that, 2001, 2002. And as me and my friend, we had been talking about a bunch of different PS1 RPGs that we play. You know what I mean? All the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh man, I got this one for a Sega CD you need to play." I was like, "Sega CD? Like, what the heck is a Sega CD?" And we got there, and he showed it to me, and he showed me Lunar. I was like, "Oh yeah, Lunar!" Like, I'm like, I played that on the PS1. He's like, "No, like, you gotta play this version. This version's a whole lot different." And I did, and ever since then, yeah, I kind of fell in love with it. And it would be not till like 2018 I got my own, but
Okay.
there's lots of different ways, because the Sega CDs, it's kind of a hard console to advocate for because it's super expensive, the console itself.
Right.
The Model 2s are pretty reliable, but anything outside the Model 2, Model 1, CDXI, CDX, they're all pretty hard to find and unreliable in the long term. So, also, the games are hard to find, and the ones that are really good are really expensive. So,
and which is kind of it's different for the Sega CD than a lot of consoles, because there's a lot of games out there that suck, not for the Sega CD, but that are not very good, but are super rare and expensive. Where,
right.
I've noticed that with the Sega CD stuff, is the better games are the ones that are the more expensive, which you would think that would be a normal thing, but no, it's not. My first, I actually got the Sega CD pretty much at launch. I got it for Christmas, and it's funny too because I was late to the game with a Sega Genesis. I ended up getting the Sega Genesis like after I had already had a Super Nintendo, and just wanted it though. There were still some Sega, there were some Genesis games. I was like, oh, you know what? I really like to check out like Sonic, and I also really wanted to play Shining Force. So I ended up getting this Sega Genesis, and not far after that is when I saw the Sega CD was coming out, and was really amped about that. I'm one of these tech nerds, right? So anything new is like super appealing to me. It's like, dude, this thing's got a CD drive. You're going to be able to do all this different stuff. And the full motion video games were first starting to kind of hit the market, so that was new. So that was appealing to me. Come to find out, there's a lot of them that aren't that great. It died pretty
Oh
quickly.
yeah.
But I was always a huge Dragon's Lair fan. That's still my favorite game to this day. And so those type of games kind of always appealed to me, and that was my big that's why the Sega CD appealed to me so much. And speaking of Dragon's Lair, they even had some um not just the full motion games, but very much like Dragon's Lair type games. They actually had Dragon's Lair, and it was one of the better ports
Yep.
at the time. But then there was like the one, like there was a car one, and this is our like
Yeah.
like
Road
anime
Adventures,
stuff. Yep. And then what is there's like
Space Ace.
yeah, Space Ace was around. There's like time. It was like this girl, and I can remember the game in the box, but there was a few of them that came out. So that I was really stoked about that too, and I played all of them and loved every minute. But going back to what I was talking about, as far as first getting the system, yeah, I was amped. So I was, and it came with what did it come with? Oh, Sewer Shark. Did it come with Sewer Shark, or did it just happen? I think
Sewer
it came
Shark
with
was a
that.
pack in for some.
Yeah.
There was multiple different pack ins, but Sewer Shark was definitely one.
Yeah, Sewer Shark, and then what I'm trying to remember the other games that I got like right off the bat. It wasn't many. There was like Sewer Shark and one more. I want to say there was a game that had like Corey Haim in it. It wasn't Night Trap, but there was another one that was kind of similar to Night Trap. And I got that one. It was basically, it was one of those full motion video games where
Right.
you would have to set these traps around this. I don't remember if it was a mansion or just whatever, some kind of hotel.
Was it like Double Switch?
That's it, Double Switch. Yep. Yeah. So
Double Switch is one of the better, actually playable FMVs on the console.
yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, and I enjoyed a lot of those quirky. I still to this day enjoy a lot of those quirky games that come out. I still like to play them, but I'm kind of bummed that the Sega CD didn't do as well as it should have, because there were, we're talking about the full motion video games, but you brought up Lunar earlier, and when I first played, and I might be getting these mixed up, there was like two RPGs. I think one was Lunar, and I think I'm thinking of that, but I think they also came out with some of the Ys games or Wise games, however you pronounce them, RPGs for the Sega CD, and it was very like Super Nintendo-ish graphics, and it reminded me kind of like a Final Fantasy, but it had voiceover, and it was the first time that I remember a game having voiceover, and even the music, if I'm remembering right, it actually was a lyrical song when you'd walk into battle, or not battle, but walking through some of the scenes. There was actually, the music had singing in it, and it really, from there, I was like, dude, the CD is the future of gaming for sure. And I don't remember if I'm trying to remember the timeline between like when the Sega CD came out and when like even PCs started having CD drives. I want to say it was pretty close though, because I really can't remember, but I do remember the Sega things like that were like, dude, okay, this CD is kind of where it's at, but I don't. Why do you think it fell short?
The Sega CD?
Yeah.
So many reasons. Like
Yeah.
there's so many reasons. It was $300, so that was
Oh
pretty
shit, was it that
expensive.
much? I didn't realize that. I got it
Yeah,
for Christmas, so.
it was way more than the base Genesis. So
Oh yeah.
if you didn't have either, you wanted to buy both at the same time. Oh my god, expensive.
Right, right.
Some of the games that were first hidden, the FMV games, and like they ranged in price too. Some would be like 45, some would be like 75. You know what I mean? Because some had like 3 or 4 discs. You know what I mean?
Oh right, yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of it was price. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
it only sold 2.2 million units.
Oh, is that well, no wonder it's so expensive now. I mean, to
Right?
find one and then to find one in working order with only that many units hanging out there.
Yeah.
And I right now I do not have one, and I really want to get one back, but it's that hard thing, right? And now it's a collector's market, and the people that are buying, what do they go for now? Like 450, 500 for just a loose one?
No, no, no. You
No.
could probably get one complete in box for that price.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you could probably get a loose model too. I mean, prices may vary in your area, but I would
Sure.
imagine 150 to 200. I wouldn't pay any more than 200 for a loose Sega CD.
Oh, really? Oh, that's not
Yeah,
as bad as I thought it was going to be honest with you. Maybe I just
yeah,
kept seeing like complete in box ones or something like that. Or you know what I probably started seeing? I think this is what I have been seeing is um like with a Genesis and a bunch of games. I've been seeing like bundles out there for
yeah.
more
You will
money.
see that for sure. And a big part of it is I mean the games like to get if you're an RPG player, you want to get the best RPGs on the Sega CD. I mean, you're talking $100 a piece and stuff. So
Yeah. Which for goodness sakes now with you see what the games are going to cost for the Switch too. Some of them are going to be close to
right,
that, so you're like, "Well, maybe."
right. So
But
I would say if you were going to collect for the Sega CD, not you personally, but like
right.
anybody, if it's coming from a nostalgic reason, that might be a better driving force behind getting the physical console and the physical games. But there's many ways to emulate the Sega CD. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I bet.
Physically with a controller or on your PC or however you want to do it nowadays. So
Yeah.
I would say just go that route if someone's just looking to explore the library because the library is definitely worth exploring and there's still a fair amount of exclusive titles on it. So
Yeah, and there's a lot of like kind of hidden gems for this thing too that when you step away from the full motion video stuff, I remember playing like I don't remember what they called it on the Sega CD, but there was like I'm a big pro wrestling fan, so there was like a Royal Rumble game or a game that was like the
yeah,
Royal Rumble for the Super Nintendo, but it had like 6 or 7 more characters because you could fit them on a CD, and it had
right.
like a
Was
steel
it
cage match.
Rage in a Cage? Was that it? Like,
That sounds about right, yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, and so little things like that. Obviously, Lunar was huge, and that's not a full
right.
motion video game.
Even just with like NBA Jam, I had
Hmm.
that. I was going to show you
Yeah,
get like the updated roster, and you get the CD quality sound, and you get like a very slightly updated resolution.
yeah. Now, I think there was a Shining Force game too on the Sega CD, and I never played that,
I think
which is
there was
unfortunate.
I think I could be wrong, but I think there was just Shining Force CD, which was the Game Gear games put on to disc, and maybe like it added like animated cutscenes. It's kind of like how you
Okay,
kind of like how they did with like Lunar or something. They added animated cutscenes and
sure.
some interconnecting storyline in between the games, but it's like chapters. I think you can play like 3 or 4 chapters, and it's like it consists of the
Hmm.
Game Gear games.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's kind of
Shining
cool.
Force CD. It's stupid expensive. It's like four or
As
five hundred. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah, that's just it, man. I mean, yeah, and I'm a sucker for having real hardware and real software, but man, when
me
you're
too.
talking $400 or $500 for a game, do you even really want to play it or stick it
Right.
in a machine if you're spending that much money on the physical copy? You're like,
Yeah.
then maybe find a better way to do that.
And you
Um,
can literally buy like a clone console nowadays that has the game pre-installed. You can play it with a wireless controller in HD, and there may be some graphical issues here or there, but for the most part, it's gonna work.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not
So,
enough to hinder any. Yeah, I
and
get
I'm
it.
not saying don't. I have a bunch of physical ones that are super expensive. I'm not saying
Hmm.
don't do that, but do it for the right reasons. If you just want to play, don't spend $500 on the console and then $500 on Shining Force CD. You know what I mean? I
Right.
think Shining Force CD was even on the Genesis Mini 2 release.
That sounds right. I want to say that. Yeah, that sounds right. Um. Yeah. What other? I I feel like one of Sega's problems was, even though they had a strong launch with the Sega Genesis, I feel like it was kind of short lived once the Super Nintendo came out, and I feel like they kept. And I mean, it's a good thing to, um, keep up to date or keep trying to innovate, and they did well that way. But I feel like they tried to innovate too fast without really thinking about things sometimes. I think that
Right.
kind of ran or made them run into problems as well.
Right. They rushed into it. I mean, as a CD unit, it functions well, but at the same time, over in Japan, you got to remember the SNES disk drive was already out. The PC Engine
PC
disk
Engine,
drive
yeah,
was already out. So this was kind of just like the natural evolution of consoles over there.
sure.
I think in that one factor that led to it kind of failing in the West was they didn't really have like from what I heard or was told, like they didn't even tell Sega of America that they were launching the Mega CD or the
Oh,
Sega CD until like halfway through '91, and it launched in '92 of US. So
oh, geez.
very little marketing or infrastructure, what I'm saying, was built up,
Hmm.
just types of things, you know what I mean? So there's so many reasons. Like seriously, the reasons are so long that it's like almost like wild to think about like a professional or a corporation back in the day did this, you know what I mean?
Right. Um,
But they did get out a whole lot of good titles for the console, even though the console itself, failed.
right. What? Yeah, I mean, some of my. I want you to be able to go through your favorites too. I mean, I'm just trying to remember mine. I did play a lot of the full motion video games, full motion games like like the ones we mentioned. Dracula was another full motion video one that I played that I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
Um, and then I played Lunar, that wrestling game. Dragon's Lair was great. Even that packing game, that sewer shark game was fun. I remember it not being very long. It was pretty short, right? I mean, I remember being able to beat it.
right,
I think in one play sitting, I sat down and was able to get all the way through that game. Um, so yeah, there was just it had a decent library, but it just kind of fizzled out. And then once I got into more PC heavy stuff, I remember that for me is when I kind of, and then obviously the PS1 came out not too terribly long after that, a few years maybe.
mm,
But then, with the PC stuff, I remember getting into a lot of even full motion games on that as well. Like I remember playing like Phantasmagoria and even
mm-hmm,
Myst and some of the King's Quest games that started popping up on CD that and they were that kind of next level of um visuals too you didn't have on PC because you had the video card thing that you could do or upgrade it and change it or whatever, that you didn't have that graininess that you had with a lot of the full
right.
motion videos on the Sega CD. So it was almost, I want to say, like almost ahead of its time a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah, they jumped the gun a little bit,
Yeah,
and
but
they probably shouldn't have launched with the FMVs. If they, I bet you, like later on, especially when they were doing the CD, 32X combos, those FMV,
mhm.
sequences looked a lot better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I forgot that they did that. Weren't there some Sega CD games where you actually needed like a 32X cart
Yeah,
and the CD or something like that?
I think there were five.
Okay. Well, and if you have like what do they call the Tower of Power, where you have like the
Yeah,
Sega Genesis, the CD, and the 32X. I mean, it had like 8 different plugs you had to plug in. You're lucky you didn't burn your house
yeah.
down trying to run that thing.
I
Uh,
haven't went down the 32X road.
I haven't either. I've never owned
only
one.
40 titles for it. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna go down that
Yeah, I
road.
don't know that there's one like even an exclusive on that I really need. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I like found one at a rummage sale or at a flea market or something somewhere and it was cheap enough, I'd definitely pick it up. But
Right.
um, yeah, I'm not like seeking it anytime soon. So give me your rundown of the games that there's some of your favorites or that's maybe some that you have in your collection now.
Right. I broke down a little list here of just kind of like some of the highlights of some of the different genres across the console.
Yeah,
Some of them are loose, some of them are CIB. Final Fight, Final Fight's a must-have.
yeah.
It's pretty much the definitive, version of Final Fight for consoles, at least at the time. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Road Avenger. That's like I don't know if you call it like a quick time event game
sure.
because it's not really an FMV game. 'Cause it's all animated. I don't know if you what you really consider that. There's a couple of different titles that
Yeah,
are
I
like
would say
that.
yeah, it's kind of like a quick time. It's very Dragon's Lair-ish, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Batman Returns. It's pretty much the same as Batman Returns as on the Super and on the Genesis, but on this one you get the
Oh.
driving sequences and you get the sound quality, the CD quality
Oh,
sound.
that's cool.
Um, Rise of the Dragon. This is an awesome point and click adventure, kind of like Blade Runner ish. Like it's like a Blade Runner ripoff, if you will, but super good and cheap. This is not an expensive game
Oh,
on the
nice.
Sega CD. If you like playing, I know you like playing click
Yeah, I love
adventures.
point and click adventure games.
Lethal Enforcers, if you're looking for a light gun, and you also get Crypt Killer, which is also a light gun game on the console.
Nice.
Shmups, everybody likes Shmups. Soul Feast, super cheap, really good shmup on the console, vertical.
Nice.
Android Assault. This is a really masterpiece of a shmup. This one's
Yeah.
not cheap, but if you're looking for titles to look through and emulate, Android Assault is definitely one of them.
Nice.
And like we said before, NBA Jam because you get the updated rosters and everything.
Yep.
And it's slightly
Is
looks
that
slightly better.
is that signed? Who signed that?
Oh, that's signed by Tim Kitzero, the voice actor.
The voice guy?
Boom
Yeah.
shakalaka. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I got him to sign this one and my 360 one. It's my two
Nice.
favorite versions of NBA Jam. This is another one that's kind of like a point and click adventure, but it's not really. You kind of just move through it. Mansion of Hidden Souls. Because you don't
Oh,
you don't move a cursor around. You kind of just look at an area, and then like if you can interact with anything, you hit the button. If something happens, it happens. If not, you just look to an area and move through.
yeah.
So
Is there
I don't know.
let
What
me
you
see
call
the back of
but
that. Yeah. I think I've played this one. It seems familiar. Man, I've forgotten games that I've played. I'm old.
right, of course, like we talked about it, Lunar.
Lunar, nice.
One that's less known is Dark Wizard. It's
Oh,
a tactical. It's a
okay.
tactical strategy RPG where you up to 100 units on the field at once, and you move them across the board, and there's a turn-based battle every time. There's interaction. I had this one signed by John Hancock because it's one of his favorite Sega CD
Oh,
games.
nice.
Bay, another turn-based RPG.
hmm
Very classic, very traditional JRPG, but
Yeah.
it's a really good one. So if anybody's collecting the Sega CD, it's an actually really good turn-based RPG on the console, and it actually has like AI fast forward features, which is super ahead of its time for the.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is more like one I bet you'd remember, Dungeon Explorer.
No, why do I not?
Which one is this? Skull Keep. Yeah, Dungeon. There was like one through 4 on the PC, I think. Dungeon Explorer. You have like a window, and then your characters are on the right side. You know what I mean? You move through each window, you hit left, right, forward,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, it's one of those. And of course, funny FMVs. Scottie Pippen Slam City. Oh my God, this game is hilarious.
Is it?
Like, the FMV cutscenes in between are hilarious.
That's awesome.
I don't have a Dragon's Lair yet, but I got Space Ace. It's another
Nice.
one, kind
Still a
of like,
classic game. Yeah, I had that for my
yeah,
Sega CD as well. I actually have
looks
my
good
one up
too.
arcade cabinet. My Dragon's Lair cabinet has Space Ace on it, so it's pretty sick.
Those are just the ones like I feel like grabbing. Like I got a whole other stack. It's like the games I feel like are actually playable. I'm not gonna. I would never recommend say buyable unless you have deeper reasons for owning such expensive games because you can play
Right.
them. They're very obtainable other ways. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when you're usually playing on stream with the Sega CD, are you usually playing your physical games, or it depends on what you're feeling like?
no, that's on physical hardware because unless I
Yeah,
wanted to run it off the computer, I don't have like any clone consoles or like
gotcha,
Pandora boxes or anything like that have emulators on them.
gotcha. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I still think Sega was definitely onto something with this, and I think with the right marketing, I think you might have been onto something there. Like maybe if they wouldn't have led with the FMV stuff, that
Mm-hmm.
they possibly could have been a little bit more successful because he already had a ton of IPs like Sonic, or look at like all the arcade games that Sega has out there. I'm trying to think of any right off the top of my head. What's the heck the Altered Beast?
But yeah, Alter Beast, Outrun,
Oh
Afterburner. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
What the heck is the adventure one with the axe? The Golden Axe.
Golden Axe.
Yeah. There's, I mean, just a ton that they could have had perfect ports for on this thing. And I wonder if something like that would have been more appealing to people, or even, making some new IPs for it that, you know, that could blow something like the Super Nintendo and everything out of the water without trying too hard to lean into that CD technology, or, not the CD technology, but they lean too hard into, hey, it's a CD and it can play videos or movies.
Right.
And
Well, part of it was on the development side too, because
sure,
like I was saying, there's so many things that led to the C's downfall, and part of it was its architecture.
yeah,
So the way they upgraded it, they did the way they upgraded it, it wasn't in a way to where the processor on the Genesis could actually use a lot of its functions. And
mm-hmm.
the way you could use them involved a lot of workarounds. And a lot of
Gotcha.
developers didn't want to have to, like, there's beautiful examples on the Sega CD. Like when you look at the Batman Returns on Sega CD and the Batman Returns on anything else, it
Yeah,
looks way better, holds a way higher frame rate all the time, and you get the driving sequences, which is like a ton of forward scrolling, parallaxing, like
yeah, yeah,
lots of layers going on, like sprite scaling, like out the wazoo, which
right.
wasn't possible otherwise. But a lot of developers just didn't want to take the man hours to be able to use the workarounds to operate this thing.
Sure. And I was just looking up when the PlayStation 1 came out, and it was uh in America. Wait, it came out later in North America in 95. So it was only like
Yeah.
a couple years later. And there's a huge difference in frame rate and even video quality and stuff like that
Oh
on the
yeah.
PlayStation 1 hardware from the Sega CD. Um, but I say that, maybe they should have led with something else. But for me, I'm perfectly honest, seeing the full motion video stuff is what made me want one. But maybe I'm not the norm. I just like seeing new tech. So I'm like, dude, that's new. That's sweet. I want that. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I just remember absolutely loving the console, and I played it to death. I ended up selling it. Actually, it wasn't too long. Well, at this point, it's probably been about 10 years ago since I've sold it. But I regret it was part of me selling off practically my entire video game collection at that point. And man, that's one of them I super regret getting rid of though, because I really wish I still had, and I had a good, I played mostly RPGs, so I've had some of the quirky FMVs and mostly RPGs and like a couple, a wrestling game here or there, maybe a different sports
Right.
game. But yeah, that's I probably had like thinking if I still had my collection now that I sold off, I probably had a pretty good little fortune sitting there. So yeah, just way ahead of its time. I just don't think it's one that gets enough love from the community as a whole. You don't hear too many people talk about it.
Right. Well, it's just because it didn't sell very much, and a lot of people did. I grew up through the '90s, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know it existed. I don't remember the commercials. I didn't know anybody that had one. It wasn't
Yeah,
until 2003, like when I finally met somebody that had one.
sure. Um,
So I had a Saturn. I had a Saturn in '97 or '98, but I
yeah.
didn't have. I never heard of a 32X either until
Oh,
way
gotcha.
later in life. So,
Yeah, I remember
which
when
I
the
think
30.
that came out in like '95 too. Like,
Yeah, it was. It wasn't. Yeah, it had to be right around there. And I remember just thinking that it was so ridiculous. I was just like, my gosh, how many goofy add-ons is Sega? I was like, why don't they just make a
right?
new console? What they should have done was just made the Sega CD a standalone machine with the power of the 32X kind of baked in, so you didn't have to have the Genesis, the 32X, and the Sega CD all crammed into one. But
Right.
it was probably expensive. I'm sure they did it for a reason, because if the Sega CD as an add-on was $300 and you needed the Genesis, which
Yeah.
was probably a couple $100, maybe 150 or something back then.
Yeah.
And then, the 32X was, I don't know, probably another $150. You're
Yeah.
talking, $700 all of a sudden, or $600 all said and done
Right.
for,
Before you buy a game or a controller, an extra
right.
controller. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I had this Genesis, and I had a Genesis 1, the first one. So, and then we should talk about that real quick. How many different versions of this were there? Because I had the one that hooked up to my or really your Genesis 1 hooked into that, because it came with like the Sega CD, and like it had a tray next to it where I could put my my
yeah.
Sega Genesis. But there was like other renditions that came out where like some of them sat on top of it or something like that, wasn't there?
Yeah. There was three. The first one, the Model 1, went underneath the Genesis. And it worked for Model 1 or Model 2, but it sat underneath the Genesis like a sandwich.
Right.
And the Model 2, they sit, side by side, but it's got like a little deck for the
Yep.
Genesis to sit on, and they go together. And then there was the CDX, which came out many years later, and it
Yeah.
was the combination of the 32X, the Genesis, and the CD.
Oh, okay. So it was like a standalone thing. It just came
Yep.
out way later, right?
I want to say like 96 or something, like
Mm-hmm.
way later.
Well, they always do that with a lot of consoles, where they start to figure stuff out
Right.
later in its lifespan and go, hey, well, maybe we can do this, and then we can breathe some extra life into it. And
They actually subbed it out first to JVC.
okay.
The JVC XI, I think it was called.
Mhm.
JVC XI. It played Sega CD games, and that they subbed it out at first. Sega CD 32X, like, so it had weird controllers too. Like,
Oh, did
if you,
it? Yeah.
if you Google it, like, it looks weird. Like, and it's super expensive and hard to find, of course.
Gotcha. Weird, but
And there's a bunch of other weird stuff too. Like in Japan, they had karaoke machines with Sega CDs built into them.
oh, really? that's
Oh yeah, yeah,
that's kind of awesome, actually.
Yeah.
They always have quirky like add-ons and things like that, especially in Japan. I feel like they always make something weird. Like it's like the Game Boy has that sewing software that you can get
Oh,
for it
yeah.
to hook up to your sewing machine and all kinds
or
of
the
weird stuff.
fishing,
Yep,
the,
the
fi-
fishing.
the fishing sonar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the sonar. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's cool though, but yeah, just kind of wrapping things up here. I still think if you're not familiar with the Sega CD library, you should definitely figure out a way to familiarize yourself with it, because there are a lot of gems out there that are kind of going unplayed or unnoticed. And I don't know. Like as we were talking about, it's expensive to buy one, and the games are expensive as well. So to go that route, unless you're a hardcore collector, um, I don't know if any of them are worth spending $500 for. But
Right.
I loved it. I absolutely adored this system, and really wanted to have a bit of a discussion about it. So I super appreciate you
Right.
coming on and chatting with me about it for a little bit.
No problem. And there's definitely cheaper routes. Like if someone has a Genesis and they want to play the 32, I think it's 32X2, 32X Master System, a Game Gear, or Sega CD, you can get one of those 7X um, EverDrives, one of those 7X EverDrives. The real, they're expensive. They're like 150 or so. The EverDrives, and then you can
Yeah.
download Sega CD ROMs or Genesis or whatever
Mm-hmm.
onto it. So yeah, it's 150, but you can play any of them all you want. You can get a clone console where like the Pandora's box or whatever, where it's
Yeah.
gonna have most of the library on it. And those are like $100. You
Yeah.
can do it on your PC 100% for free.
Right. Right. Yeah. Um, So there's definitely a number of different ways to check this thing out. Yeah, it's just I feel like it's underappreciated. I really enjoyed it. So everybody go check out some Sega CD games. Check out the library. There's a ton of good games out there. So, well,
And
Mystically,
still a lot of exclusives too. Like,
oh yeah, lots of exclusives. Um, Mystically, let everybody know where they can find you if they haven't, if they're coming here for the first time.
all right, yeah, you can find me on all social medias under Mystically, just how it's spelled below right here, and on YouTube, I do a lot of unboxing right now. Sometimes I do some reviews and pick up videos, like a little bit of everything. But yeah, pretty much on all socials and mainly on YouTube for videos.
Yeah, cool, man. All right, well, thanks everyone for checking out our Sega CD episode. We'll see you next time.
Hey! You still don't have a Sega CD? What are you waiting for? Nintendo to make one? You have seen the games, right? Wrong answer, man. Show 'em! Want to see more?
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our little retro gaming podcast. I know there's an absolute ton of retro gaming related content out there, and for you to take the time to listen or watch ours is super appreciated. If you like what we're doing here, if you're on YouTube, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button and all that kind of fun stuff, or if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, maybe leave us a 5-star review. I think it does something. It helps us. It makes us look cool. Maybe it does. I don't know. Who cares? Nobody cares. Thanks again, everyone. We will see you next week on the pod. Good night.